All right, fantastic. So we're at May 20th. My goodness, half the year over, 2020. It's a Wednesday night education call that we do each and every week here at Enriching Gifts. And we have our host for the call, Ron Schneider. He's a immunoenzymologist. He is a leader of leaders, and he has some amazing information that he shares with us each and every week. So I know the topic, Ron, and I want to say welcome to the call. And the topic tonight, I'll let you share that with everyone. But I just want to say, all that you have going on in your life, in your travels and everything else, and you find a way to make it here, whether it's in a vehicle, in a hotel, at a training center, at home, doesn't matter. You're just here with us. So really, really want you to know we appreciate that. We don't take your time for granted. Nevertheless, we're looking forward to some awesome information that you share with us once again this week. So thank you. Welcome to the call.
Yeah, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. So, again, I apologize for being a little late. I have a hailstorm going on in my house in Miles City, and we're out of town. So I just was on that before I came on here. But anyway, tonight I want to talk a little bit. It's really a lot more serious of an issue than people realize. And it's that keto diet. First of all, the keto diet is nothing new. High protein, low and no carbs diet has been around since Suzanne Summers. It's been around for at least 25 years. Now with the internet and all that kind of stuff and the social media and stuff, it's really gained popularity.
I don't have any.
And there are pros and there are cons. So I want to go over some of the pros.
Ain't get it loud enough.
Realize this because of the way the program's being promoted in marketing. It's a great weight loss product. It's a great way to lose a few pounds in a short period of time. And if you research keto diet, pros and cons on the internet, and I encourage everybody to do that. Just Google keto diet - pros and cons. And that's one of the places where you're going to see and hear a whole bunch of what I'm going to be talking about tonight. But again, like I said, I remember talking to Susan Powter back in the real early 80s. The gal that stopped the insanity, the white hair, real short haircut. She was real popular in the early 80s. And then Suzanne Summers come along in the early 90s, mid 90s with, no sugar, get rid of the sugar. The sugar is causing all the weight gain. Susan Powter thought it was all the fat that was making people fat. And then pretty soon, Michael Thurman, remember or even Google that name, Michael Thurman. He had the Power Up America protein plan. And he was an athlete. I wouldn't call him a bodybuilder, but he was definitely a weightlifter. Really did a lot of physical activity in his own personal life. And that's when the high protein diet really became popular because he marketed it as a weight loss diet. And so let me kind of start at the very beginning, how this all works. And like I said, I even talked to my daughter here about probably maybe 7-8 months ago about it and the risks of staying on it on a long-term basis. And when I say a long-term basis, nobody should be on this diet consistently more than 3 months at a time. It is very hard on your kidneys, your organ, your liver, because of the nature in which your body utilizes and processes protein. All those high proteins and fats got to be processed once they're consumed. So let's back up a little bit and just give you some 101 about high protein just itself. Protein is what they refer to as a catabolic food. And that's bodybuilder, power lifter, that's athletic talk, sports nutrition talk. What the word catabolic means is you're going to break your own tissues down to actually find calories to digest and process protein through your body because there's not enough calories in the actual protein source that you just ate and consumed. There's just not enough. It's catabolic. It means that there's not enough calories in the food source to be able to process it, digest it, assimilate it, and eliminate it through the body. There's just not enough calories in the food source. So your body's forced to go to either stored muscle tissue, which is an energy reserve, energy source. It'll literally break it down and use the amino acids and the different nutrients from muscle tissue to carry out bodily function, or it's going to go to stored fat. Now, there is a definite way that your body will go to stored fat, make a choice to go to stored fat, or if it's going to go break down muscle tissue, which is your body's metabolism. That is what forces the body to metabolize and burn calories every single day. Your muscle tissue is the most active tissue in the human body of all tissues. And really, when you think about the human body, all it is tissues. And 1 pound of lean, dense muscle tissue will force the body to metabolize minimum 45 and as much as 100 calories per pound of muscle tissue mass just to maintain the health and the functionality of the tissue for 24 hours. So remember that. Later on in this conversation, this is going to become very important that if you really want to lose weight, you have to exercise and exercise in a way that builds lean, dense muscle tissue. That's going to dramatically increase your metabolism, but your metabolism is increased 24 hours a day, even at rest. Remember, even at rest, your minimum amount of calories that have to be metabolized in your diet just to support a pound of lean muscle tissue daily is 45 minimum and up to 100, depending on the density and size of the muscle tissue. Your body only has to metabolize 5 to 7, and this is where the keto diet really doesn't make much sense to me. Your body only has to metabolize 5 to 7 calories, meaning it has to burn 5 to 7 calories from your dietary source just to hold on to 1 pound of body fat. Fat just lays around, it's lazy, it doesn't even consume a lot of calories. In fact, if you just heard what I said, 3 to 7 to support 1 pound of fat tissue versus 45 minimum and up to 100 to support 1 pound of lean muscle tissue. So take the low 3. Now what's 3 times 10? 30. What's 3 times 15? 45. And that's the minimum. Your body will metabolize 15 times more calories minimum to support muscle tissue and muscle tissue growth as opposed to supporting fat. Just hangs around on your hips. That's why when you talk about a diet, and I have never, ever come out with a dietary supplement that promotes weight loss. I just will not screw people. I'm not going to lie to people. I'm not going to deceive people and set them up for failure just to make a doggone dollar bill. So the 30 years that I have been in business, I have never promoted a weight loss product until just recently, about a year ago. Because when you think about your body, how do you support lean muscle tissue mass? That's all done with amino acids. Amino acids are the fundamental building blocks and the nutrients your body uses to make all tissue in the human body. It's all made with amino acids. Vitamins, minerals merely support metabolic or organ functioning processes like the brain, the heart, the liver, the kidneys, all of your vital organs, your skin tissue. But to support muscle tissue mass, that's all amino acids. Support all tissues in the body, that's all amino acids. So the best way to support a weight loss program is twofold. One, exercise. You're not going to build a lot of muscle tissue mass without exercise. You just don't do it. And the second thing you need to do is start consuming pre-digested amino acids. Because by most people, as we age, why we don't have the ability to maintain those real heavy, dense, strong, big muscles like in our teens and our mid-20s and early 30s, we lose all of that well before you're even 40 years old. You're on a downhill spiral. So why professional athletes can't play in a professional sport beyond the age of 38 to 42, 43. It's very rare to have an athlete that can compete at a collegiate or a entry-level professional sports level in your early mid-20s. Very rare to have an athlete that even begin to compete with those in that age bracket over the age of 38. And it's because your digestive system just doesn't produce the necessary enzymes anymore during the digestive process to get vital nutrients from the diet you're consuming. So you're not getting amino acids or full breakdown of protein tissue that would actually in turn supply the amino acids for the body to use to build and maintain all organs and tissues and muscle tissue masses. And that's why we all deteriorate as we age. It's a deficiency of enzymes involved in the digestive breaking down of food source that we become nutritionally deficient. So when you start taking pre-digested, and it's really important, do not take a simple protein powder. Take pre-digested amino acids, and they're very difficult to find in the marketplace. That's the product I brought out a year ago because it is so difficult to find in the marketplace. Going to Costco or Walmart and getting these big through 2, 3, 5-gallon cans of protein powder. That is not pre-digested protein. It's called elemental protein. And here's the problem. When you're starting to get older and you lose that ability to digest your foods, you're not going to get any more amino acids out of that bucket of protein powder as you age than you get out of your basic meal. And in fact, taking protein, and this is something I want to talk about, this keto diet. If you're aging and you're over the age of 35, you've got to be really careful with this keto diet. It's not going to affect too many younger people in the teens and 20s like it does people over the age of 35. And that's when the larger majority of people are starting to look and lose the weight because their body's starting to gain fat. They're gaining weight. And the problem with that is you start forcing protein through the body and you don't have the capability and the enzymes to digest it. Guess what the byproduct of all protein digestion is in the human body? There's a byproduct. There's a leftover byproduct every single time a human being digests a protein-based meal, vegetarian or animal. Animal produces much, much more, much higher amounts of uric acid purine, uric acid for short. And uric acid, what do we all know about uric acid? If it's in the body too long, and when you don't have good digestion of protein, and you're over the age of 35, it's going to start being in the body way too long, a lot longer than 6 to 8 hours, a lot longer than 10 hours. It's usually in there 10, 12, 18, 24 hours from a single meal. And within 10 to 12 hours, that uric acid byproduct that's left over from every meal you consume throughout your whole life from protein in your meals, that leftover byproduct is going to crystallize into uric acid crystals. And they actually create the disease called gout. They create a form of arthritis called gouty arthritis. They even created a condition called inflammatory joint disease. So these are all severe deteriorating, not just bone tissue, but actual in the blood environment. It does affect the joints mostly. But it will eventually can even build up uric acid.
No, you can do your work.
Of the
I can
body.
still do my work.
Do it in joints. So you got to be really careful and be really smart and educated about the human body when you want to start throwing in this keto diet for everybody and think you're going to live off of it because you're losing weight. It is definitely a program you do not want to do more than 6 weeks and at the very most 3 months without cycling on and off for a 6-month period. And like I said, go Google it. It'll talk about cycling on and off almost every place on the internet where you see pros and cons. So it does work because protein, like I said, it's going to force your body to go to stored fat to find extra calories to process the protein through the body. But it does it at a tremendous risk and even at a tremendous negative trade-off. So as you go through and you start going through this protein, yeah, you're losing weight. But again, let me point to another part of this diet that has a tremendous downside to it. In order for, not only does it create uric acid because it's in the body too long, it will oxidize into a crystal and then build up in your kidneys, your liver, your gallbladders. That's part of major part of where stones come from, is uric acid. That's over a 30% makeup of every stone in the human body. Calcium, uric acid, and there's a couple other minerals. And that's what stones basically are. So why would you get stones and why would you have uric acid oxidizing? We just went through why it oxidizes or hardens into that crystal form, because the digestive process took way too long because of a deficiency in your body's ability to produce very high amounts of protease enzymes to digest your daily meals. That's number one. Now, what else do we understand about the way the protein digestive process works? Here's the other downside to this. You know, I'm sure you've heard of the condition or disease, acid reflux disease. Yeah, what do we know about acid reflux disease in an advanced stage? It can cause esophageal and other forms of cancer in the human body. And so here again, you're going to go pushing all of this protein through your body because it's a popular diet and it produces some limited results. Weight loss, okay, good. But understand what you're doing to your body in the current and in the long term, because there are some really horrific diseases and negative side effects associated with a high protein consumption diet. Cancer is one of them. Arthritis in any form is another one. Joint disease, that inflammatory joint disease I talked about earlier, that will put you in a wheelchair. Yeah, you heard me right. You start getting on this diet and living from this high diet and your body's genetics don't match up with the diet you're trying to push through your body, you will lose the ability to walk, you'll lose the ability to have mobility in your joints, and you'll be in a wheelchair in about 10, 15 years. And I know there's people on this call that can kind of think back 15, 20 years ago when I tried to have this conversation with several people. You know, so you got to be really careful. And again, let's explore the way the body processes through the digestive process all proteins. So for your body to start the digestive process of proteins, you have to do one of two things. First of all, you secrete a lot of protease enzymes from the pancreas and other tissues within the entry stages of the small intestinal system. But 95, 98% of all proteases are produced and released from your pancreatic organ. And all those protease enzymes have to have a specific acid pH in order to become active and digest your foods. So that's why your body produces hydrochloric acid in the acid stomach in the entry or beginning stages of the digestion process of protein. Because the enzymes, you can produce them, but if your body can't produce hydrochloric acid and create that acid pH in the acid stomach, your body's not going to digest any part of protein you just consumed. So that's what Zantac, Tagamet, Rolaids, all these antacids are for, to neutralize acid, Prilosec, Nexium, all these prescribed drugs and stuff. They are dangerous as heck. Your body can't produce tissue. Your body can't maintain organ, skin, nerve, muscle, any kind of tissue in the body without amino acids. And what do all of those drugs do? And even the over-the-counters, they neutralize acid. So your body can no longer digest the foods because you've taken away the pH of the acidity from your hydrochloric acid. And then as you age, here's the flip side to that. So now you're not only going to not digest when you're on antacids, things like that. So your body's going to suffer. You're going to lose your metabolism. You're going to start to gain fat because you're breaking down your body's metabolism or the need to burn calories from your diet through that very heavily active muscle tissue. So the flip side to that is okay, now you're going to go ahead and create hydrochloric acid, and that's going to go ahead and activate your enzymes. But how does your body manage hydrochloric acid once it's produced? It's in the stomach, and it's going to get absorbed. Some degree of it will get absorbed in the bloodstream because hydrochloric acid from the digestive stomach entering the bloodstream where it circulates in the blood is called acidosis. It's a buildup of hydrochloric acid as it absorbs food into from the GI tract in the bloodstream. And that acidosis can actually weaken and even damage and allow holes to be created in your arteries, your veins, your heart, any pathway in which all arteries and veins circulate throughout the human body. So that's the downside too. And again, the more protein you consume, the longer the digestive process of protein is going to be engaged, and the more hydrochloric acid your body is going to produce. And in order to neutralize, because let me just say something before I go into how the body manages acid in the digestive process and even in the bloodstream. In order for your body to function properly, there's no part of the human body, cellularly or any other way, that benefits by the presence of acid outside that little tiny stomach called the acid stomach. No part of the human body benefits by the presence of acid outside of the acid stomach. And yet, if you create enough of it, it will get absorbed more frequently and in larger amounts into the bloodstream as our body absorbs nutrients from the GI tract in the bloodstream. And like I said, once it gets in the blood and starts to build up, and your body starts having really bad breakdown reactions to that building up of hydrochloric acid in the blood that's circulating, your body now has to find a calcium source. And if you don't have calcium, and this is what I want to talk to these keto diet fanatics, make sure you're on a good, not calcium carbonate or calcium bicarbonate. That stuff is crap. Hopefully nobody's going to be offended by me speaking frankly, but I'm sick and tired about seeing all of this CalMag and all these other great supplements, calcium at Walmart, Costco, and every place else. It's the cheapest crap you can put in your body, and it's the least structural calcium that your body can benefit and use from. So go to a citrate malate. The best form of calcium is coral calcium. And for all the people in the world, the hundreds of millions of people worldwide don't know where coral calcium came from when it was introduced in the United States, yours truly right here brought it to the United States market with Fred Kaufman. We placed it with the very first network marketing company, and way before Kevin Trudeau and Bob Barefoot ever had it on national television. I was the one, along with Fred Kaufman, that brought this and introduced it to the US market, which sold billions and billions of dollars worth just from a single source of calcium, because it works. It's got tremendous research behind it, tremendous research comparing the different forms of calcium. There's about 9 or 10 different forms that are available for the body and the humans to consume. But find good coral calcium. And I will tell you, all the coral that's out on the market today, regardless of where you go get it, whether it's GNC, whether it's Walmart, whether it's Costco, coral calcium from Okinawa, Japan. That's the way it's promoted on infomercials and on TV and stuff. That is not below the surface of the ocean coral calcium. That's all filtered off from going out, dredges going out and reclaiming the beach. So don't, buyer beware. Not all coral coming out of Okinawa, Japan is the same. And the only place that I'm aware of, even to this day, where you can still get Ericsson Alcomine, which is a large pharmaceutical group out of Sweden, Ericsson Cell Phone Communications, that's the same guy, same company that actually has the exclusive rights to go ahead and vacuum coral off and around coral reefs. You cannot decay the coral at all. That's all regulated not by the Sierra Club, but the Coral Sand Seas Worldwide Association. The Medical Group is the only group licensed by Coral Sand Seas Association anywhere in the world that can actually harvest coral reef as it breaks off the reef, vacuums it off the ocean floor in and around coral reefs. And it never sees the air. The problem with all those other coral calcium products is that as the tide goes out, it's exposed to air. And what happens to anything in salt water when it's exposed to oxygen? It rusts immediately. So any beneficial properties that was in that coral that they get from when the dredges go out, when the tide's real low, those are all destroyed anyway. You'd have just as good luck go out and chipping off cement off your curb and start eating that stuff. Rocks. There's no difference. Look for good quality coral calcium. And like I said, as far as I know, I'm the only company still in America that gets their coral calcium from the Ericsson Medical Group, which we have the exclusive importation rights in the United States all the way back in I believe it was 1994 or 95 is when we first got that. Kevin Trudeau's infomercials didn't come out until 83 and 86. Or I'm sorry, 2003 and 2006. So anyway, so that's the story about calcium. But let's get back to the keto diet, because your body is going to literally, once you start to push this high protein through and your body's increasing the amount of hydrochloric acid it produces for every meal, now your body's got to look for a source that neutralizes that acid. Calcium is the only mineral in the human body that will neutralize acid on contact. And so that's what your body's limited to finding and using to neutralize all this acid that had to be produced so it could create the acid pH in the protein digestive process for all your protease enzymes that are produced by your pancreas and a few other tissues to digest the protein source food you just consumed. So hopefully everybody back up and listen to that one more time. Follow that, because it's really important. And if you don't have calcium and taking calcium supplements, if you're on that keto diet, then you really need to. Seriously. And I'm talking a minimum of 1,000 to 2,000 milligrams every single day. And the more protein you consume, the more acid your body's producing, the longer it's going to be in your body, which means the more calcium you're going to have to put in as well. So you're not taking away the effectiveness of the diet. You're still forcing the body to metabolize calories and look for stored fat or another source of calories to finish off digesting through the body. But do not leave that side effect inside your body of that hydrochloric acid accumulating, because it will create cancers. It will create holes in your arteries and your tissues and even in your heart and your organs. It can become a real long-term problem. So I'm trying to navigate through this whole keto thing, not only to educate everybody, but to show them how to do it relatively safely. There is, in my opinion, there is no really 100% foolproof safe way to do that kind of a diet. There just isn't. So what I want everybody to do is just kind of get the risk factors. And again, go Google it, pros and cons, keto diet. then you'll see there's a lot more cons than there are benefits. But the long term, the cons is from the long term use of the diet, from not cycling on and off of that diet every 6 to 8 weeks. Those are the reasons why people are having so many struggles and so many problems. So again, it's okay to push that kind of protein through the body, but again, if you don't have enough enzymes and you're not taking digestive enzymes, really good ones, to help digest and break down your meal within that 10 to 12 hour time frame before that uric acid that's created as the byproduct of the protein source food that oxidizes into that crystal form that builds up in your kidneys, your gallbladder, creates stones and those kind of things. Take enzymes, take a good form of coral calcium. And those are the two great big pitfalls. And the third one is make sure you're taking a really high, strong antioxidant, because that'll slow down the oxidation and the conversion of simple uric acid purine, which is a slimy green liquid, into a solid oxidized stone. It'll slow down a lot of the damaging effects of your oxidation to your arteries and your organs, which are exasperated by that heavy hydrochloric acid that seeps into the bloodstream. So there's things that you can do to minimize this and really create a really good weight loss, weight control, weight management program for yourself. But like I said, you got to understand the pros, the cons, understand how your body works, but not only digesting this protein, but also the way it processes through the body and what's left over and what's actually occurring during the process of that digestion. And like I said, the biggest risk factor for people who suffer the cons or the negative side of that diet are people over the age of 32 to 35 years old. Anybody under 32, 18, 20, 30, you're not even going to hardly notice the effects of stuff like that because your body's metabolism is so fast. Your ability to reproduce cells that are damaged by the diet itself or by the surrounding effects of the diet, your body can replace those very, very quickly because you got great metabolic enzyme reserves. You start losing that reserve significantly after the age of 35. By the time you're 38 to 42, your body produces less than 50% of the enzymes you did at age 15 to 18 years old. Less or more than 50% less. And if you can't produce enzymes, that means all this stuff is going to be in your body literally hours and even potentially days longer. And the longer it's in there, the worse the effects of the negativity are going to be. So, but that high protein diet, even though it's meat flesh, most people are consuming meats because it's more dense and takes longer to digest, and especially more calories have to be metabolized to digest meat proteins versus vegetarian proteins. And believe it or not, one of the benefits to having that super revved up metabolism is you can actually naturally reduce LDL cholesterol. That's why when your doctor puts you on statin drugs, he's really encouraging you to get out and exercise, build up that muscle tissue, build up that metabolism, burn off all those calories that are coming in from your food source. And that's what that's really all about. So I think I don't want to go into an overload for anybody tonight. That's a really good start. And I think it's not a teaser. It's just a great educational value and stuff. So I know that there's people who have asked me about this, but I'm going to go ahead and stop right there because we've been at this for well over a half hour. And that's pretty much enough of a load for most people's heads to start blowing up a little bit and get headaches. And what the heck did he say? How did he say that? How do I get him? So let's just kind of leave it at that. But there are definitely some benefits and there are definitely some cons. High blood pressure. It's very hard on your heart and organs. The digestive process of protein is always going to be hard on the human body. The leftover side byproducts of that diet are uric acid and LDL cholesterol, which both, if they're not metabolized and dealt with properly by the different bodily functions, can build up in your body, creating cancers, heart disease, heart attacks, strokes, dementias, Alzheimer's, all kinds of stuff. So it's important to really understand your body, understand your diet, understand your supplements, and definitely understand that this is a very limited cycle on, cycle off kind of a lifestyle and diet to manage that little bit of weight loss you're trying to get rid of and maintain. So I'm going to leave that at that. And Dover, if you want, let's go ahead and open up the call tonight for questions. Because I'm sure we probably got a lot of questions if we have any keto diet
All right.
on the call.
Yes, fantastic. Great information. And absolutely. If anyone has a question, we do have one in the chat, but and maybe I'll start with that since that was asked a little while ago. So the question is from James. The question is, so the keto diet short term, so should we be intermittent fasting? And then
Yeah.
there's a second question to that too.
Yeah. Fasting is a part of the keto diet. It forces the body into ketosis. What is ketosis? It's the process where your body literally sacrifices itself, giving your body the ability to break itself down and get calories and nutrients to support bodily function from the breaking down of the body itself. And again, short term, that's okay. Long term, that is not. So, yeah, that's a really good question, because your body does go through the breaking down process whenever you're on a keto diet. Remember I said there's not enough calories in the food source to actually process the calories or the food through the body. So you have to go to the body and break down stored body fat or break down lean muscle tissue in order to get extra calories to process and digest the protein source through your body.
Okay, and there's a second part to that question, which is, so should we be eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner for people that don't need to lose weight?
Should we be eating what?
3 meals a day for people that don't need, so you don't need to lose weight. Do I really need to eat a breakfast, a lunch, and a dinner?
Well, I'm not sure what that has to do with the keto diet, but I will tell you that I've actually looked very extensively into this. In fact, I studied a group. They're called the Centurion Group, people who live beyond 100 years of age. I actually looked into this and researched and studied this for over 3 years, back in the mid-90s, right after I got done with the whole AIDS epidemic over in Africa, probably about 2001 to 2004. I went around and was interviewing people and talking extensively to people that are actually living from, they call it the Centurion diet. And do you need to eat 3 meals a day? Think about this. I guess here's the simplest way to put it. Yes and no. First of all, it depends on what kind of diet you're actually consuming. Is it a plant-based? Is it organic? Is it vegetarian? Is it going to be digested very quickly? So that's the first question you got to ask yourself. What kind of diet are you living from? And if you're eating the protein and all the processed foods and everything else, the answer is no. You could probably get by with a couple meals. But always remember, and this is one thing that was the hardest thing for me to learn, because all the way through high school, all the way for my first 18, 20 years of my life, I never once ate a breakfast meal. Don't do that to yourself. Just don't do it. Your breakfast meal is the most important meal of the day. Just as important as drinking water at any other time of the day, throughout the whole day you're awake, your first big 30 ounces of water in the morning are your most critical and most important. Same way with eating a breakfast. Do not ever skip your breakfast. Why is that important? Because your body was literally functioning for the last 8, 10, 12 hours without a drink and without a meal. And your body functions from nutrition and hydration. They are essential for healthy bodily function. So don't skip those ever. And as long as you have a good, sound breakfast, don't eat late at night either. Try to consume a meal in the middle of the afternoon, somewhere between 2 and 4 o'clock. And those 2 meals should be more than sufficient unless you're very, very active, unless you're very, very muscular. And then it really depends upon always remember, when you eat food, you're trying to support something. You're trying to support your body's ability to function with nutrition. That's the purpose. My wife and I'm always giving her a hard time. She's a little Filipino and she loves her Breyer's ice cream. And she can't stomach it, can't take it without my enzymes. Otherwise, she gets really bad allergic reactions and lactose intolerance and all that kind of stuff. And I'm constantly asking her, I said, is it really worth it for you to live to eat, which means somebody lives to eat and just enjoy their food, to heck with the consequences or the benefits of health, or do you eat to live, which comes from a very conscientious mind process about what am I eating and how is this going to benefit and affect my body in a positive way that supports me in the ability to function at a much higher efficient level. So are you eating to live, or are you living to eat, which is food enjoyment, and the other one is about trying to get the best out of your lifespan and your genetics. They're two different things. So when you take in consideration of this, it really is going to come down to how good of a diet do you have. The better the diet, the less their need there is for multiple meals and consumption throughout the day. And that's just for a normal person. Like I said, an athlete, a very muscular person, he's got to eat 4 or 5 smaller meals a day in order to support the metabolism of the muscle tissue, so on and so forth. But to answer it simply, as long as you're eating good, nutritious foods, a good breakfast in the morning, make sure you hydrate. At least half your body weight in ounces of water have to be consumed within the first, not half, 25% of your body weight has to be consumed within the first 4 hours after you wake up in the day. And proper hydration for anybody's body, regardless of muscle tissue mass, your body type, your exercise, indoor, outdoor work environment, doesn't matter. Half your body weight has to be consumed daily in ounces of water in order to properly maintain and cellularly hydrate the body so it can function properly at a cellular level. Because all enzymes that carry out all cell functioning, they're all hydrolytic or water activated. So hopefully I didn't get too complicated and too strung out sideways with answering that question. But yeah, that's the answer to the question. You can, the cleaner your diet, the more consistent you are with that, no more than 6 to 8 hours between the 2 meals. You could get by with 2, especially if you're not a real active person. If you're very muscular, got a strenuous and demand on your body for work and exercise, whatever, then you're going to have to definitely 3, if not 4 or 5 meals a day, because your body is ravagingly consuming calories.
All right. James says, thank you. Okay, great. Great questions. And if anyone has a question, please unmute yourself. Everyone is muted out. And so
Hi,
unmute
Ron.
yourself and ask a question.
Hi,
Yes,
Ron.
hi.
This is Tana Stahl from North Dakota. Say part of the keto diet is an emphasis on high fat. And what are the adverse effects of the high fat in your diet? And, you know, the big trend now is to have bulletproof coffee and things like that. So I'm just curious about that end of it.
And it's a great question because I kept talking about protein, but that's part of the keto diet. You're looking at about 60%, 50 to 60% protein, about another 25 to 30%, which is fat, and you're only looking at about 5 to 15% of carbohydrates. So by far, 80 to 85, 90% of that diet is protein and fats. Fats are much less than the protein. Proteins are the main star of the diet, then comes fats. The problem with a higher fat diet where you're consuming 30, 40% of your total intake daily of fats is cancer. Go to the National Cancer Society. You're going to see a high fat-based diet. 30 to 40% of your body weight and consumption of fats is the main contributing factor to virtually most cancers. And the reason is because it's just like LDL cholesterol. Depending on what kind of fat it is it's fat from chicken skin and burgers and stuff like, well, that's LDL cholesterol. That has a very, very fast side of your body. And as a result of that, it can clog your arteries. It can contribute to dementia and Alzheimer's. There's all kinds. It can contribute to high blood pressure, even blockages, narrowing the enclosure pathways of your arteries and your veins, your circulatory system. There is a lot of negative things to a high-fat diet. And like I said, everybody seems to focus on the weight loss aspect. And like I said, there are some pros and there are some cons, and there's more cons than there are pros. And one of the biggest things is people have to understand you cannot live on this diet for more than 6 to 8 weeks at a time. There's just too many negative things that actually are involved in that diet that are going to come and rear their nasty little ugly heads. There's just too many cons that you're going to get away with that without having some horrific illnesses, diseases, and struggles with your health over a long-term basis. So it's a great question, though.
Absolutely. Anything else, Tana?
No, that pretty well covered it. I knew the bad effects of the protein, but I wasn't quite clear on how, harmful the high fat was. So that helped. Thank you.
All right, Ron, we've got another question in the chat from Van. Is consumption of fish and seafoods okay? Does or should it be wild caught or farmed? And then what Enriching Gifts products do we take? And I would imagine that's kind of tailored towards the keto diet.
Right. First, let me just talk about the fish, salmon, and especially, again, go to the pros and cons. I went across a couple different websites where they talk about salmon because the omega-3 essential fatty acids and the omega oils in salmon versus any other type of a fish. They really recommend salmon as part of the keto diet. They don't really talk about shrimp or crab or lobster or scallops or trout or bass or anything else. They really talk a lot about walleye and pike, but more importantly, salmon, because of that large omega oil content and stuff. So there's good fats and bad fats. So that case, that'd be good fats. It's like vitamin E is very beneficial for circulation. There's a lot of benefits from the same type of oils and fats in your diet, such as from salmon. They can help thin your blood. They'll help increase blood circulation. They protect the artery from cellular damage to the membrane by oxidation. Free radical damage is what I'm talking about when I refer to oxidation, things of that nature. So fish, specifically salmon and fatty, oily fish are always the better choice in this kind of a diet. Because we're going to have fats, have good fats, and like I say, not all fats are created equal. Then, what was the second part of that question before we got to the supplements? Oh, whether it's organic or farm raised or not. I'm going to be honest with you. Wild caught has probably about as much pollution, pesticides, parasites, mercury, and all the negative stuff growing along with it. The one thing about farmed is you're actually able to control the water environment in which the fish are grown in to a great degree. Now, when you get up to Finland and the fjords and things like that, where you see these big old nets out there that are about 1/8 of a mile wide, and they're big, huge, deep, and they're right in the actual ocean itself, most countries now have protected shipping lanes. But as we found out with the whole radiation thing in Fukushima over in Japan, you see radiation washed up on the American coast, months and years later. So everything does travel in the ocean, and the current, sooner or later, it's going to affect everything out there. So I'm not nearly as opposed as I would have been 10, 15 years ago about farmed fishing, because farmed fish and shrimp and that whole farming industry of seafood has come a long, long ways compared to what it was 20 years ago. And now they've gone to great lengths to protect the waters in the oceans where that farming, the wild farming, actually takes place. If you go down to Australia, right now they've got a farm they're building. It's going to be 8 miles worth of real deep, deep water tanks. And that's where they're going to be growing bluefin tuna, because it's such an endangered species and way overfished right now. And they're actually found a great food pellet that they created that actually creates a much more flavorful and a better tasting tuna. So, and it's clean waters. It's in a tank. It's not out in open ocean with a whole bunch of nets around it. That's usually what wild caught means. It's a type of farming, but it's out in the ocean. And because it's out in the ocean, it's actually wild caught. Sometimes it means it's free, like the deadliest crab fishermen and stuff. But there's a lot of farming that goes on out there too, and it's wild caught because it's out off the shore and out in the ocean, the nets and stuff. So you do have to do a little bit of background and research when you get into wild caught versus farm, because you can still farm out in the ocean. You can still call it wild caught and still be in a farm fence, 2-3 miles out in the ocean. It's just kind of crazy. So I'm not as opposed to, the bottom line answer is, Van, I'm not as opposed to anybody using farmed fish as compared to wild caught. Nowadays, quality is probably just about the same. And even it's getting better to where I would even go more towards farmed as opposed to wild caught because of the pollutions, the plastic, the chemicals, the oil spill dumpings, the radiation, everything that's being dumped into the oceans. They're becoming so polluted today. And even in fish, this is crazy. We now have a disease that's called, I can't remember the name of it, but it's a brand new disease. It's caused by microcrystals of plastic that come from the rain from the sky. Because it's so small, as it decomposes in the ocean, when the water is carried up to create the clouds, that plastic goes up and it rains, it's in the air, you breathe it in, and it actually accumulates as little tiny vapor crystals in your lungs and actually creates a whole bunch of different diseases. And that's something just literally discovered in the last 2 years. So you see stuff like this all happening in the organic world, but now just like our hard algae. You know, here's a perfect example of I'd take hard algae farming over wild harvested algae from the ocean any day, like cyanotech or even open pond harvesters, like cyanotech, aquasearch, and Hawaiian red. We grow ours in big old photoreactive biodomes, 5 feet tall, 5 feet around. They'd just be big, huge glass domes elevated off the ground surface about a foot so air can circulate in and around all aspects of the dome. The benefit of that is it's 100%. It's 100% that you're actually controlling the environment in which you're growing. 100% controlled. We control the minerals, the water temperature, the amount of light that gets into the glass dome. All we have to do is heat up the water, it turns completely black, shielding out all light. We even have black lights as it circulates through a central tube. And so there is no bacteria. You turn on black light, it sterilizes the entire batch. Hundreds and hundreds of thousands of kilos of it. And so the more control you have over the environment, the more sanitized and the better quality you're able to produce. So that's why I said 20 years ago, 25 years ago, I would have said wild caught, go for it. That man-made crap is just man-made crap. So anyways, I'm not opposed to wild caught. That's the bottom line right there. You're probably going to get as good, if not better, nutrition from a farmed fish or animal or catfish or whatever, as opposed to a wild caught fish or crab. Excuse me for just 1 second. Hey, wait. What's y'all down at the truck? I'm sorry, somebody was there. So, all right. So, anyways, I think I answered all your questions, Dan. Hopefully I did. And then the supplements for EGI to support the keto diet. First and foremost, you have to take the enzymes because you're going to lose the ability to digest by the time you're 38, 42 years anyway, just a regular diet. Forget all this high fat, high protein you're pushing through your body. That's even going to create more stress and more deterioration and more problems. So first thing is get on a great digestive enzyme, take it every single meal. Second thing, get on antioxidants. Metabolic complete, the hard algae, get a really good antioxidant. Because one of the things that's going to happen when you start pushing that protein through your body, you're going to have a lot of oxidation, free radical damage occurring to all cellular tissue in the human body. So reduce that, minimize it. You can't eliminate it, but you can significantly reduce it a lot. And then the third one would be the probiotics. You definitely, they just are going to contribute to a much healthier GI tract. And proteins have a lot of parasites in them. Chicken flesh, these wild-caught animals, fish and stuff like that, they have parasites. And so you're going to get that parasite in your body as a result of foods. And probiotics are good bacteria that actually break down a lot of parasitic bacteria. And the other product we have is called Daily Detox. That actually has herbs in there that would kill parasitic eggs and things like that. So, but definitely want to take probiotics, keep the GI tract healthy, but get the best and most complete breakdown and digestion of your food source, whether it's enzymes from a bacteria or enzymes produced by a metabolic tissue, or even a plant where you take them in a capsule, such as the plant enzymes from Enriching Gifts. So that's where you want to start.
All right, fantastic. And then, Ron, Ronnie has I'm just going to read it here. It says, a series of studies reveal that taking a cold shower is a great way to boost your immune system.
Yeah.
Indeed, the human body releases more white cells when you shower with cold water. That is because it thinks it's under attack. When you have more white blood cells, your body's ability to combat infection increases remarkably. In brief, infection may take place regardless of how strong your immune system is. That's why you need to try these easy methods to boost your immunity and keep your illness at bay. Aside from healthy nutrition, these tricks can bring many beneficial effects. So Ronnie's question is, he wants to know some feedback in terms of, is there some validity to that statement?
It is legit. It is legit. It is legit all day long. I remember back when I was playing football and stuff, and even professional athletes and sports trainers right now today, this is a standard protocol for athletes in any level or sport. And what they do is they put you in ice water. It's not just cold water, it's literally ice water for about 5 minutes. And then they put you in really, really hot steaming water for about 5 minutes. And you cycle back and forth and back and forth. So you're tricking the body. You get this tremendous overload of immune system cells that are actually going to help you heal much faster. And then you've got the speeded up circulation from the hot part of it, which actually expands the muscle, increases the oxygen, and increases the circulation. So you're getting the best of both worlds, but it's not just a quick shower. I mean, don't take a cold shower any longer than probably 5 minutes, because then you start going into hypothermia and things like that. But, really, shower water can't get that cold and induce hypothermia anyway. But if you really want to get into that whole immune system building thing, and some real great benefits by cycling ice cold water in some kind of a bathtub, and then have some kind of a hot tub you can just run out and jump into, and hopefully they're both close to the proximity of each other, and just hop in one for 5 minutes, hop in the other, hop in one, hop in the other. And it's a shock to the system, but that's going to make your system react in a very, very strong, aggressive manner. And both hot and cold have benefits. Cold reduces inflammation. It doesn't only just stimulate immune system cell production and release. Hot actually increases blood circulation and uptake of oxygen. So your body's going to go alkaline. They're just all, but I don't want to get into a long story. The answer, Ronnie, is yes. There is a lot of tremendous information and benefit from taking a cold shower when it comes to building up the person's immunity. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, fantastic. Anyone else have a question or a comment? We're getting close to the top of the hour here. Great questions this evening. And thank you for those answers, Ron. Makes a lot of sense.
You're welcome.
All right. Sounds like that was the last question. I want to thank everyone for taking their time to be here and to ask those questions. And Ron, we want to say thank you to you for just everything that you do and your leading by example. So you just, I learn something new every week, and I sound like a broken record. I know I do. But there's always something that you are touching on. And sometimes, repetition deepens that impression. At least it's doing that for me. So to hear things that maybe you've talked about in some cases many years ago, for those of us that have known you for a while, and or just to repeat it recently, it's just really refreshing to know that it's consistent, one, and that obviously I'm absorbing more than I think. So I think I'm speaking for all of us. So thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you, everybody. And like I said, anybody that knows anybody that's on the keto diet and is really living from this, bring them on the call. Just want to make sure that they're aware of all the pros and the cons and the benefits and consequences from this kind of a diet. Because I can't say it's bad all through, and I can't say it's good all through either. Just really understanding it is the key to not only getting the weight loss benefit, but also getting the true health benefit. Don't put yourself at long-term risk just to simply lose and maintain a few weight loss pounds. It's just not worth it in the long run. Okay. So have a great night, everybody. Good call, and we'll talk to you next week.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ron. And I just want to say to everyone, get back to the individual who cared enough to share this call with you. So just make sure you reach back out to them if you have any questions, and we'll definitely be here next week, same time. Have a great night, everyone, and we will go ahead and wrap up the call. Thank you.
Okay, Dover, thank you much.